Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a very full episode last week, and I feel like we still missed a bunch of stuff in the news. But before we move on, before we get into actual EV stuff, I just need, because I was curious last week, I want your thoughts on the bot at AI Day. I know that was a couple weeks ago now, and you may have to mentally shift back into that gear. But were you impressed by what they came up with? Were you unimpressed? Were you whelmed? Do you think their pursuit in this field is justified, or do you think it's a distraction? Or like, it's technically an electric vehicle, guys. It moves. It's electric. It has a battery pack. You know.
It's electric.
Because I mean, I have thoughts on the bot, but I don't feel like, or I don't want to do a dedicated video on it, but I think it'd be interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on it as a concept for the company to pursue and what the current state of it looks like. And
I'll defer to you first, Mr. Vasquez. Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yep.
Again, I still think it's scary. It's a very scary, crazy, mechanized. Yeah.
Why is it scary?
This thing is going to, if it does, or if it achieves the goal that Tesla wants of it being able to replace a bunch of manufacturers on the floor, all those workers, assemblers and everything, it would be changing society greatly, and also it being able to be in any home would be a tad bit jarring. It's going to be like almost like the Pixel automated phone calls type of situation, but it's going to be the robot answering the phone. I think it's cool. I still think it's really cool. I think our predictions from the podcast before that event were spot on. It walked out, it did a little dance, and then I guess it walked away. I was still impressed. I still stand by that statement that I had before the event that I was going to be impressed. I was still impressed by it being able to walk out, do a little dance, wave and all that, and then walk away, because that's it being able to balance and walk. And even though it looks very fragile and unimpressive, that's very impressive from a robotics standpoint of developing that within a year.
I could beat the crap out of that thing.
Good.
I could just
do it.
I would take that thing's lunch money in a heartbeat.
It has no lunch money, so all you're doing is stealing.
Hey, Poindexter, where do you think you're going?
There's all the copper wire stealing issues that we had back in, like 2016, 2015. There's people stealing copper wire from different places, like schools and all that. It's that again, but with the robots. People are just stealing the components out of these robots. Otherwise, I thought the event was great. I rewatched the rest of it, like a week or two ago, just listening to the rest of the FSD stuff, and I thought it was great. But the bot section was the most interesting to me, and I don't know. The presentation of like the control system was lackluster, because I've taken controls and they're just like, here's what we're doing with the controls. I'm like, oh, cool. And then it wasn't really anything. It's just, here's the parameters. I'm like, there was no control system in there. It was just talking about, here's what we're focusing on the robot doing. I'm like, well, that's great. That's a great border. But otherwise, I think it's cool. I think if they stay on this track, we'll see a really neat, refined system next year that will be able to walk a little bit with more confidence, a lot more confidence than the cars on FSD have.
It goes like this.
I think so. I think it'll be able to do stuff like that.
Spider-Man 3's it?
Yeah.
Right? I think it might be able to do that. That or balance on one foot and all that. Maybe juggle if it can. I think that's possible if they keep on this pace. But
Tobey Maguire's the stage.
Okay.
What Mike is saying is basically it's a freshman right now, nervous, insecure, timid. You can bully it, and next
Can't
year
walk.
you can bully it.
You can bully it. Hey, jerk. Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is me holding school. This is me holding school books to our people in high school. Yeah. This is me holding.
Obviously, haven't been to school recently with how many books.
I was about to say
now.
to the people.
That's the freshman holding the Chromebook.
Oh,
there you go.
Hang on. That was on accident. Sorry.
Man, Randy's leaving early today, by the way. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there it is. He had to actually find it. For
I'm a robot.
listeners,
Sorry.
he has an iPad.
Hey,
Don't look at me.
did you guys get number 38 for Mrs. McCoggin's class?
B.
Yes.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, it's
school
fascinating
books-
to me that. Yeah, it's fascinating to me that Mike finds it scary.
It is.
Because that means you see potential, you see a future where it starts replacing jobs.
From a person who worked, or I guess, operated in a robotics lab for 2 or 3 years at my university, it's pretty impressive stuff. And
Okay.
I worked in a robotics lab that is here in Silicon Valley that was involved in a lot of different projects, aerial, underwater, on land, and all that. And this thing is leagues ahead in regards. I mean, they've got a whole lot more money and a whole lot more engineers than students, but it's scary to see how quick it's developed. Like, you look at Boston Dynamics and how far they've come. It's taken them a while to go from some skeleton
not a new
that's
company.
tethered. And they're not new. No, they've been around for a while, and it's taken them a while to get Atlas to where it is today. And I mean, now it can
Since
do
the
front
90s,
flips.
for the record. Boston
do some-
Dynamics was, like, formed in 93, I think.
Yeah, and it took time. I mean, it's more of like you see it with Tesla. If one person can do the EV, then that means the others can do the EV, right? And you see
Yeah.
Ford and VW come out of the woodwork and try to make this EV. I mean, I guess maybe not out of the woodwork. Rivian's more of came out of the woodwork, came out of nowhere, and made this EV that is somewhat comparable to Tesla's in a lot of
True.
capabilities. So
And they shifted directions a few times, I think. I believe the first Rivian vehicle wasn't even electric, and then they decided along the way that they wanted to do battery electric and that they wanted it to be an adventure vehicle, but I think they started with like a sedan or something. I just
Gotcha.
remember hearing that they scrapped their original plan for the electric adventure vehicles, but yeah, they...
good.
So, yeah,
Otherwise,
anyway,
it is interesting to see this develop so quickly, and that's what I'm still scared by it, because I mean, originally it was just a person in a suit, but they said we're going to have this done real soon, and they kind of came prepared to the event, showing like, look, hey, we got it moving. It's the first time it's moving on its own without a tether, so we're a little bit careful with it, but it's moving.
I was so nervous when they said that. I was like, oh, great. It's
Yeah.
gonna walk, gonna bring back the stage a curtain, and then it just falls straight on its back. It's gonna be or I just pictured it opening up, and then Franz comes out with the steel balls.
Oh my God!
We haven't seen
Oh my
Franz in a while, have we?
Imagine if the bot was just like, and it just
Oh
grabs
yeah,
the
grabs
steel
it.
ball.
Imagine
Winter
the bot.
Soldier moment.
Franz was the bot all along. That is some Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff.
What about you, Randy?
Or-
What did you think of the bot?
Yeah, what were your thoughts?
in the event?
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Whelmed. Underwhelmed and whelmed at best. And I wasn't really whelmed. I was like, I get it. Boston Dynamics been around a lot longer, but also, even though the idea of it looking like a human, I could care less. I don't care. When I look at like the little machine killing dog thing, and it's jumping and it has a machine gun attached to it, that scares me, Mike. That scares me. I'm like,
Well, that's a little bit more alien, right?
yeah, just kinda, like it's just on the wall. I
You know-
will eat your soul. Into
Boston
consider
Dynamics
you.
did make a robot that could jump 2 stories.
Sand flea.
Every
Sand flea.
origin of a supervillain starts at the. Remember Green Goblin? Back to beginning, whatever he says. Like back, it needs to go back to back to trial or whatever. And he just and you know sorry. And then you just have Norman Osborn grab him and just throws him, and that's like super strength, and he just runs off. I expect the machines to be doing that superhuman strength, baloney. And the more we make it look less human, the more we're willing to fight it. Because if you got something that's a humanoid, oh, Kika has an opinion. Oh, now you want to stop? Yeah, I bet, jerk. Now, if it looks human, you might submit to it. You're like, oh, we're Kika, shut up.
You guys have such different perspectives. I love it.
No, so the coming on the stage thing and just like it's like it's a thing. It looks like a human, kind of. It does not. That's just for that's for fun. This is a person who, and I mean Elon, who has every means in the world to get creative with his nonsense, strictly because he can. Because he can. Here's a flamethrower because we can,
Burnt hair.
Burnt hair because we can. Please buy burnt hair so I can buy Twitter.
You're telling me a man named Elon Musk didn't want to sell
I know.
perfume under the Musk? Yeah.
What a missed
I
opportunity.
didn't think of that until now.
Having a
sold it to
android,
Twitter.
having a cyborg come out and look human, just strictly because you can, is more about like, this is cool, this is fun, but it's also very impractical. Like, I could just push it and it'll fall over. However, Boston Dynamics, you get that machine dog thing and you try to push it and it holds itself. Even that guy, the one where
they did it with Atlas too, who's bipedal. They pushed him with
know,
the
but-
hockey stick and everything.
dude, I will sumo that thing to the ground and I will. Let me tell you
Gonna
something.
hurt you.
I will F my knee up. And him. Thing.
I think you mismeasure.
Misunderestimate.
There we go. Misunderestimate.
That's
you
a Bushism.
underestimate the strength
Our
of
enemies
servo
are always
motors.
gonna misunderestimate us. Fool me once, shame on
Servo
you.
motors are pretty strong, though, Randy.
Fool me
I would
twice.
expect if it saw you
fool
running
me
at
again.
it would expect it could easily sidestep. Or
Okay, an
hold its
enemy. Art of the
If
War.
it's
You
Atlas.
don't ever
Atlas is
reveal
huge.
your tactics. I would sneak up on it. I'd be like, "You talking crap? You want to go?" And I would bring it down. Not
Be
even
like Captain America trying to choke a robot from the neck.
Now that's a reference. Oh, my favorite movie.
I don't want my robots to look human. I want to know
Okay.
who the
You want
enemy
something
is.
like Eve or Wally then, or Mo. Something
To be
a little
honest,
more cute,
I just want-
small. and accomplishes.
I want the robot to be designed to fit its purpose. If its purpose is to walk amongst men,
Well, do you understand the reason why they want it to make it humanoid?
besides the press, honestly,
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it wasn't for the press.
no, I don't agree. I just don't agree, really.
Well, their thought process was to. That's what the human world is made for, and you can replace the most amount of jobs if you make a machine that is the form factor of a human. That's why they want it to have 5 fingers, opposable thumbs, is so that you can insert those bots into where human jobs are. That way.
What a sterile future that is. That is so like, listen, why I don't agree is like every robot at the end of the day, like the whole made it work. Okay, so I can work 24 hours a day and I don't have to take a lunch break or something. Maybe I have to charge, but that's different. Like I'm looking at the it's going from right. That's funny. Nice. All right, sorry. I was looking at the thing that Mike posted. I'm underwhelmed with it because it's like this is the future 10 years from now or 20 years from now or whenever it's supposed to be at its final form. Then no, from a couple weeks ago, I was like, what? Unless it's Arnold
can't look
Schwarzenegger
at
Terminator doing its thing or doing breakdancing like this.
It's
Yeah, I
mesmerizing.
don't really. What do you need a robot right now to do? That's a humanoid robot. What do you need that to do right now today?
It would be nice to have some help with yard work around my house. And you need a bipedal robot that can go up and down different terrains like a human and grab things like a human to pick up leaves or branches. Or
Make it
dig
better than a
holes.
human. If it's going to replace us, make it better than us. Don't
Well,
make
yeah,
it
but
like a
that's the
human.
question. What's the form factor then, right? Because
Not
if
a
you make
human.
it what you need. So the reason Drew put very well before is that a human can do multiple things. I mean, we're capable of many different things in many different situations with the tasks that we have in our lives.
Yeah, I just farted.
Making the
you
robot.
Didn't even know. I'm perfect.
That's great, and the robot probably has a fart mode as well. But it's also a similar. I mean, it's thinking, okay, our form factor can do all these things, and we need help with these things. So why not make a robot with the same form factor that can help with those things? So it makes sense that you make it in that form factor, where if you make it like a giant box that has treads and that has multiple arms that could come out with different drills and appendages and all that, that may not be able to fit in certain spaces that you need it to. And maybe you can have it.
Have you seen Wallace and Gromit?
Mm-hmm.
A Grand Day Out, where they go to the moon and there's the little stove with the hands.
I don't recall.
Listen,
but I'm
if
pretty
you
sure
need
it's
help,
so much
I'll find a
similar to the
picture of it.
script. Okay.
If you need help, just hire the illegal immigrants and they will help you all the same. Hey, I'm Latino. I can make that joke, pendejo. Cállate. I can make those jokes. Just hire the Hispanics, okay? I can make those jokes.
I don't think that's it either.
I don't think it's either.
Hey,
I think
I'll do it.
there's
I'll
many-
do it for a pack of Corona. You tell me where, and that's good enough for me.
Randy, where am I going to find those people if I live in Canada?
You're not going to Canada.
They can't.
Maybe I
They
am.
can't produce.
You're right. You're right. Hispanics only stay in California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas, and they don't exist anywhere else. Definitely not in Virginia.
I mean, even so, even if you want to take that route, you could build the bots for way cheaper than what you would pay under the table.
Well, under the table. Listen, we are honest working people, Drew. I take Venmo.
Says the person
However
who
you wanna
wants
pay
to
them.
hire
Okay.
work. That's illegal.
People still need to rest. People need time off. People need breaks.
Jokes aside, the genuine answer is that I was just underwhelmed because it hasn't sold me yet. It just like we could talk
And
about
it may never.
hang on. We're talking about definitely in the context of Tesla. FSD was trying to sell me, and now I've been like, my mind has been changed the other direction. I was like, oh, actually, I'm not sold on it anymore. It hasn't convinced me. I'm underwhelmed because the thought of a bot right now, or even in the future, I'm just like, I'm not convinced. I know what we can fantasize it doing to help us, to help enhance everyone's lives. Mankind, for everything that it needs help with mundaneness. Maybe you don't need somebody on an assembly line doing mundane work, and that's what a robot would be flawless at. I mean, we have machine press that do all this assembly lines all the time for other things that are mechanical, and it's made our lives easier. Humans in general, just life, unless you work at Foxconn, but that's all right. So I get how it works today, where I'm like, all right, I see the vision, but I'm not convinced that's the right approach. No more than I'm not convinced that like our FSD is the right approach anymore. I just I have a hard time.
It might not be the right approach now, but it could be in the future. I think a good example of that is the Roomba. Originally, it bumped into things, it sucked up things, and it had a hard time with carpet. Now it can easily go on carpet that is a decent thickness and is able to get in places that you wouldn't imagine the Roomba to get to. I mean,
you have the better version than I have. I know we talked about
exactly,
it.
but it took time to get there, right? So it's gonna be the same for this.
It's a convenience at best. It's not a necessity. If I really need to do the chores around the house about sweeping, I would do it. And it's not. It doesn't. I don't lose time out of my day before doing it when it's doing the same zigzag pattern over and over. Is it a convenience? Heck yeah, and I'll take it. If I can, I would. Why not? But that doing its certain function now, at best, is a luxury, not a necessity. Yeah. And I'm like,
and that's what the bot will be for many people initially. It's going to be that luxury, and eventually it'll be rolled out to the assembly or a necessity.
For what it's doing today and what we're looking at then as a luxury, I'm not convinced and I'm underwhelmed. I'm on all of it. Boston Dynamic, all of it together, I'm underwhelmed with it and I'm not convinced. They have to earn my mind being changed, and I just, as of today,
Sure.
as of the event of a couple weeks ago, I rather, I get there's different teams working on different things at once. I would rather they allocate all resources on fixing the stuff that's the more 36-month goal, the 3-year plan. Get that down first, even if it's just Robotaxi. Let's get that down. Let's get FSD down. I mean, now we're doing the old dance here again. The robot is a cool 5-10 year plan. But I would rather allocate more attention. If you're recruiting, if AI Day for recruiting was its intent, show the progress of the things that you promised the last couple of years and what that looked like in the timeline. And like, hey,
and they did.
Okay, so
with
we missed
that
our
day
mark
as
a little
well.
bit, but here's we are with this. Here we are with that. I like that. I as a not an engineer who's being recruited, have more confidence in the fact that, dude, Giga Texas is looking fine. That's probably going to be the greatest facility that we have in a long time. Show how that's like efficient in every way. Like that builds confidence in me, and anything that rolls out of that factory gets an A+ stamp of approval in the Randy book. And I'm like, that's awesome. And if you tell me that the bots are going to eventually roll out there, all right, that's kind of cool. But again, my trajectory of that thing is more long term. So I'm underwhelmed. Whelmed at best, but underwhelmed.
That's fine. Has your mind changed, Drew, with the robot in the last 2 weeks since we saw it actually walk around on its own?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of creators talk about the bot, and a lot of people debate back and forth on it, and I love it because almost everyone has a different opinion on it. It's a great talking point of like from an engineer's perspective, and then from, a more everyday consumer perspective of like, I'm not convinced, or this is a threat, or this is going to take jobs, or this is going to be a distract. And I guess I find myself, I don't know, we need a 4-quadrant graph or something. Like,
Nice Venn diagram.
bot is
or
good.
something.
Bot is bad for different reasons.
Oh, like a political compass one.
Yeah, it's kind of like a political compass. But I genuinely don't. I don't think it's going to be as disruptive as they anticipate it to be. That's my impression. I think that it really, a lot of people have rightfully brought up, is a totally different product from Boston Dynamics Atlas. Like, they both take the form of, okay, it's a robot and it has 2 legs and it has arms, but the Atlas doesn't even have hands, and it's very good at jumping and doing flips, but they're not trying to like market that. They're not trying to sell it, or if they are trying to sell it, it's to the military. It's like over 300 pounds, I believe, and it's a very expensive, like very heavy. A lot of the parts that they use in Atlas are titanium, which are very expensive, and it costs them several $1 million to build that thing, and everything in terms of software of that robot has to be manually coded. It's not like interpreting the world around it. It's just kind of being told what to do by hand. And it's cool. It makes for great YouTube videos, and it's fun to watch, and it definitely gets, look at what Tesla bot is so slow, Boston Dynamics bot is so fast. It's like, you're missing kind of the goal with each of these projects. Boston Dynamics is just trying to figure out what can a robot do. Tesla bot is trying to be like cheap, affordable, scalable. They want to build hundreds of thousands of those things. And I don't think Boston Dynamics has ever even claimed to want to do that. They're just like, they're basically like a glorified R&D. They're like,
I mean, they just entered the market with Spot recently.
And Spot is like $80,000.
Yeah, and he's just a little bipedal dog that you can get a optional attachment arm with, and also comes with like a tablet or whatever, and that's it.
That's about it, and it's helpful. I mean, SpaceX uses Spot, which is kind of cool. They have a camera out there, and they go check on the rockets so that they don't have a human walking around out there that when things
they wouldn't have
explode.
one there anyways because of all the safety issues. So it's nice having something that can walk around on uneven terrain.
Yes.
Confidently. I think that's what Tesla's trying to aim with the Tesla bot, is have something that is able to do these jobs confidently, that may as well just be pushing a button and making sure that something is ready in front of it.
Right.
which could be easily done by just a camera and a button pushing actuator.
Yeah.
But they want to make something that's a little bit more adaptable to any situation. So it's not like we designed a bot to push a button, then we designed a bot to turn a crank, then we designed a bot to whatever.
It's adaptable.
Yeah.
To the human world, which is what our manual labor force is built around. But I just think that because they want it to be cheap and scalable, that's going to inherently prohibit how fast and how efficient the bot can actually be. I think that because they don't want it to be crazy heavy, they want it to be slow, so it's not dangerous, and they want it to be, kind of taking its time with things, and it slowly grabs here and it slowly grabs here. I feel like that's ultimately going to prevent it from being as quick or as versatile as a human worker is. So I predict kind of like it's that shoot for the stars, land on the moon type mentality of like, you'll probably come up with something that I'm not saying it will never hit the market. I'm just saying the number of use cases where it will honestly be better or it will fit the job position. Like the one I saw brought up that I thought was a good one is like a security position. Like just a security guard walking around checking on things. If someone breaks into a facility or comes in, the bot just basically sees them, records them, and I don't know, points. It starts playing an alarm sound, and then if the person sees the security guard, they're like, or the robot, they're like, oh no, they got me, and either they run off, but if they like shoot at the bot or they push the bot down, it's useless. Like,
not to be so hyper specific about that example, but there are different classes. There's different levels of security guards as well. Some are armed. Some just have a guard.
Yeah,
card.
it would not be armed. I think it would just be for surveillance purposes of just like, hey,
some people are just deterrents. Like mall cops are deterrents. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
They can't grab you. They can't touch you. They can't.
That's what
anything.
I think the bot would be good at.
It's a deterrent.
I like to think it does something like the Kalon from the Orville, where it's got guns hidden in its head. Something like that.
There might even, I don't know, that I need to ask someone, but there might even be rules about that. I don't know if you can arm a robot, but
not the rules
I just think
I would have an issue with that
and
personally.
at least in America.
The demo, I tend to side more on Randy's end of like, okay, it's cool that you made a robot that can walk, but we've seen walking robots before, and it's yes, they technically made it within a 12-month span, and that was very quick, but if we're talking like it took 12 months to figure out how to get it to do that, what they showed, then I'm like, we're not anywhere close to like functional or useful. Like we are so, if that's the rate of improvement we're talking about of like, it took 12 months to figure out this is the first time it's walking out on stage without a harness, is like, and that takes a year to get it to like walk without a harness. Yeah, I believe it's hard work, but I think that the concept of having presentations and events annually on something that develops so slowly might be getting ahead of yourself. Or
I don't know. This was pretty quick. If you look at Boston Dynamics and how long it took them to make Atlas or anything close to Atlas or even anything close to Spot, and then you compare it to Tesla developing Optimus Subprime or whatever in a year after having ideas of it, it's a pretty decent timeline. So that's why I'm a little bit more optimistic in the fact that they got it to walk on its own within a year. Even if it was very trepidatious with every step.
It just, I guess it may be the slowness of it. The fact that it's like, okay, it's walking very, very carefully, and they're the whole time like, is it going to fall? And this is just a prototype. The next one isn't walking yet. We have to bring that out on the hand truck. It's like, if it's at this pace of development, I don't think it's going to be replacing jobs anytime soon. Like,
correct.
I don't even know if that's like a 10-year project. Like, I think that it's one of those things similar to the self-driving concept of like, like the car's going to drive itself, and also if it can drive itself, then we don't need to own cars anymore, and then robotaxis can replace this, and they extrapolate what they think the capabilities of AI are to this extreme high volume, like we don't, no one will own cars in the future because the car will be driving itself everywhere. That's how I feel they're kind of looking at bot, of like the sky's the limit. So if we can figure out how to make a humanoid robot, that means we don't need manual labor anymore. Therefore, we need universal basic income. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know if that's the only direction this can go. I think that there's a good chance that because the bot isn't going to be as versatile, I think as easy to train.
I won't say no to UBI though. I'm just saying, like, you want to get
That's a whole different discussion. I'd love to go down that one. But like the simplicity of like explaining to a human how a job is supposed to be done. And I know that humans are flawed too, but bots and especially with machine learning, they don't remember things or keep things contextualized as easily. They're like, wait, you said this, therefore I'm going to do this, and then they repeat themselves and they don't realize that a bot is making a mistake. I mean, Mike has complained about his robot cleaner so many times to me over the past several years. I'm just like, why is it thinks it's in the bedroom, it's not in the bedroom.
I've only had it for a couple of months and it's been an issue. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, the readout isn't correct on the app because it's actually going somewhere else, but the readout's like, oh, it's actually going to like the master bedroom. And it's like,
even so,
you're in the
like,
closet.
I know that it's not
the
using the
guest
same software and hardware and stuff. I know it's not the same comparison, but I just get the impression that this development process is going to be very slow, but Tesla is going to continue investing and jumping on opportunities to make it better because they're going to continuously think this is going to be a super profitable business. This is going to make so much money.
Are you leaving, Randy?
I gotta go.
Alrighty.
Bye. Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
joining.
Now that he's gone, we can finish our...
Now we'll talk about how
Real
terrible
fun.
the Model 3... Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Long range. But, yeah, I feel like the edge cases are insanely high with the bot. I feel like the number of things that you think will be simple to solve just with AI and interpreting the real world, I don't see it replacing a large number of human jobs. It may be a handful, but I see it being fairly niche. Like, in the same way, I don't think the Roomba business will kill the vacuum cleaner business. It's like,
No.
for some, there is a reason to get a Roomba, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ever buy, a manual vacuum again. There's still reasons to buy that. For the same purposes, like, yeah, there will probably be some jobs that are like, yeah, we just need someone to, like, check a valve on a pipe and adjust this a little bit. And just as long as it has a hand and it can walk around and go upstairs and go downstairs, as long as it can do basic stuff, sure, we can get a bot to do that. But in terms of like all of the complexities involving making food at a fast food restaurant and how you handle the fries in the fryer and how you clean things, every example I keep hearing of is like boring, repetitive work, which often involves cleaning, especially in like senior communities and stuff. And I'm trying to picture how you teach a bot to accurately clean something when that is something humans are so particular about. Like, so like, oh, you got to wipe it down this
It kind of
particular way.
depends
It
on
has
the
to-
location that you're at for cleaning, right? Some places are a little bit more meticulous with how
Yeah.
clean it needs to be, what kind of sheen and shine or surface texture you're kind of aiming for. Or it's
Yeah.
kind of just, you wipe the mop over the surface. It's clean. So
Right.
it kind of depends, right? And I think that's something that, like we've brought up before in previous podcasts, like the parrot mode, like being able to, like, at least with
Just
the
to follow
car, teach
you.
it like, yeah, follow this path. It could be the same with the bot. Here's how you do it. Like, here is learning mode or parrot mode, and then mop, and then stop, and then you say parrot mode done or whatever, and then it's like, oh, okay, mop, done. So it could be something as easy as that. But again, it's operating on something similar to what the car is operating on with FSD. So it'll take some time. It'll take a lot of iterations. It'll take a lot of testing for it to actually get a lot of those tests correct. And that's going to take a while. Just think about how a car, which is a little bit basic, 4 wheels and a platform and all that, driving on very well-defined rules of the road, and it still has trouble with that. giving it a whole lot more variables and only 2 legs to manage it with 2 arms, it's going to take a while to actually for it to become something that's a little bit more societal impacting, something around those lines. So yeah, I agree with you. It's going to take a while for Tesla Bot to even do anything remotely impactful to the workforce. But
Yeah.
I'm still optimistic with what I've seen. So,
Well, I'm not against the concept of automation replacing jobs. I know a lot of people don't like that thought. That doesn't worry me too much because I feel like as automation becomes more commonplace, it can lower the price of operations, which can increase the amount of excess capital people have, which they'll divert towards other things, and we'll find more creative work to do. So I'm not worried about like, oh no, we're all gonna be bored, or we're not gonna have a way to get paid anymore. But it's like, I think the economy has a way to self-correct itself because we've had a lot of automation in the past 100 years, and we still have labor shortages in all kinds of fields that are like, oh, we don't have enough people doing this, we don't have enough people doing this. It's like, there's work, it's just finding people that want to do it a lot of the time. That's the hard part. Right. And I hope Bot can help with that, but I feel like the context awareness of situations is what's going to be really hard to teach Bot.
Sure.
It's going to be like, okay, you mop, but if there's trash on the ground, you got to pick that up along with it, or if there's some kind of like the water's not soapy enough, you have to know there's a difference of like, oh, you're just kind of streaking around brown spots now, it's not really cleaning it, but he told me to wipe it this way. Yeah, but you're not getting you're not doing it right.
Well, I think at that point then you just teach it again. You give it another instance of it being like, oh, okay, this is how you want me to clean. And so then maybe it becomes a weird rough average for that location of like the most terrible cleaners and the most effective cleaners, and you get some average which might be acceptable for that industry, or at least that location, for whatever cleaning it's doing. So I don't know, I think
there's inherent limitations by making it weak. Like there's only so much stuff you can lift if they keep it to 120 130 pounds. It's such a weight restriction anytime you want to lift something that heavy, and it's gotta,
that's all right. I mean, if you've got multiple amounts of them, then you can lift something that's really heavy because you're just distributing the weight. And even so, a lot of manual labor jobs, like working at a fast food restaurant or in a factory, don't actually require that much lifting. It just requires a technical know-how of what you're doing. So it might not be needed. And for the heavy lifting stuff, maybe that's where you kick in more bots, or if that's too expensive, you still keep some humans on. It's just the Tesla bot sits in the corner and does this task. So
right. I guess that's how I view it, is like, I think even in like 10, 20 years, it will just be in its corner doing something. But I don't see like, oh, we're going to let go all of our employees because the bots are so good. We don't need humans working anymore. So
right. I mean, I think a good example, this is a weird example, but this is an example that I had recently. My Roomba does clean my house a lot. I haven't really vacuumed my house much since, because the Roomba does a pretty decent job. But recently we had a dryer vent on the back of our clothes dryer come off, and there was lint everywhere. And there was no way I was going to let the robot in there because, one, very tight space. Two, very dirty. I didn't want the Roomba getting in there and then tracking the dirt everywhere else. And then three, it was just much more convenient for me to go in there with the vacuum and clean it up with a little nozzle and all that versus the Roomba tracking the lint everywhere. So there are circumstances where what this correlation is that there are circumstances where the robot will be best, which is the mundane, laborious jobs. And then there's those very specific cases that is maybe just better for a human to intervene, which is fine. We have many humans on Earth. And in fact, the person who's in charge of this company that's making the bot believes we need more humans on Earth. So, or I guess in general, we need more humans. So,
well, that's partly the part that worries me, though, is that they will justify spending big time on bot because they'll think this is going to be a $100 billion to $1 trillion revenue stream in the future, and in reality, it's going to be like a couple billion.
But that's just their mistake that they'll make if that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And that's all right because they've already shown that they've been very profitable with the sexy lineup. And now they're starting to sell the Semi and all that. So I think Tesla will be fine no matter what. Until
I don't think
they
they'll
do
be in
something
trouble.
wrong. Until they do something that's very incorrect, which could be the bot. But even so, it's a learning experience. You've seen Ford, or actually maybe a better one. You've seen VW have a lot of their shortfalls with Dieselgate and all that. And maybe this could be Tesla's Dieselgate, but just a different form. We don't know.
Yeah, not malpractice, but just I'm not saying they're overselling. Maybe they are overselling it. I'm not saying they're lying about it. That they're being deceptive about what it's capable of. I think they're genuinely excited for it, and they think it's going to do a lot. I'm just predicting that it won't do as much as they think. It won't bring in as much revenue as they expect, and I see it becoming more of a niche business, more so than a. Like, Elon thinks this is where it's all headed. Like, we're going to be a robotics and AI company, and that's how we'll be remembered. And I'm like, nah, I think you'll be known as the car first, and then energy second. But
I think that's the beauty of Tesla is that they have their tendrils everywhere in computer or machine learning, in robotics, in automation, in cars in general, and all that. So they have the capability of doing many great things. And I think if there is a great thing that can be done by a company and they have that potential and they have that interest, go for it because it'll just make the world a lot more unique and better. And that's what I mean, that's what car people want in a way. They want a more unique experience with the way that they drive. And Tesla's just taking that to a different subject that's semi-related, kind of like how we're bringing it to the podcast. It's semi-related. It's an electric vehicle in a way, right? So I think it's a worthwhile project, and if it doesn't pan out, okay. It was a nice try.
Yeah, I guess I'm partly concerned of distractions, of like time or money being spent on things that aren't going to be worth it to them or aren't going to be as worth it as other things to pursue, whether it's battery production or cheaper. Like I'm kind of getting more and more disappointed the more I realize, like, Tesla doesn't believe they need to make or at least sell cheaper cars. They're in the mindset of we just need to crack the robotaxi code and that will be how we get cheaper cost of transport. And I'm like, well, what if you can't, which you've clearly missed timelines on over and over again, and there's probably even still going to be jurisdictions where it's just not practical or it's not legal, depending on how the governments feel. I mean, Tesla can't even sell cars in a lot of states. I'm sure there's certain regions that are there's certain regions that aren't going to be okay with Ubers and taxi drivers being replaced with robotaxis. So it's like, in those regions, are we just going to say buy a different brand because we don't have anything in your price bracket here? That kind of makes me sad, knowing that they've abandoned the $25,000 car or converted it into just it has to be autonomous. Like, just because I love the ownership of this vehicle, and I think you've enjoyed the ownership of yours, and I'm like,
no,
I love this experience, but it is and was very expensive, and I want the EV ownership, especially the Tesla ownership with the software and the charging network. I want that to grow to more people. Like, I want this product, which they worked really hard on and delivered a great experience with, to be brought to a wider demographic. And anytime someone's like, well, do you think they'll get cheaper? Do you think there will be a cheaper one? I have to be like, no, because robotaxi. They're like, what? No,
what's a robotaxi?
You won't be able to buy it. They'll just make a cheap one and then rent it out, and you'll just call it on your phone app every.
Yeah,
I don't know,
but
I don't
to
like
be
that
fair,
feature as
I mean,
much.
Tesla is I think the workaround solution to that is that Tesla is showing that they're okay making CCS ports or US CCS port, so people can still enjoy that experience of getting on the Tesla Supercharger subscription and having a very, very pleasant time charging their car. It's not a whole entire scanning a card, waiting for it to connect and all that, and being like, is it going to work? And then it quitting 5 or like 30 seconds in and all that. I think that's where Tesla will definitely soar with people who don't want to go with Tesla but still want that nice charging experience, which is why I think it's okay that Tesla's maybe focusing a little bit too much on robots and not making or maybe not cost effective, but cost friendly vehicles for customers. Just because the competition will then rise up, right? Or at least hopefully it will. We see companies. I know, right? We see companies like Sony wanting to enter the game. We got Honda finally entering the game with the Prologue and all that. We've got Polestar coming in with another vehicle and all that. Kia keeping it up with making more vehicles that are different and all that. Besides, of course, starting out with the Blazer effect with the EV6. But my point is that Tesla's distraction only means the gain for other companies to catch up with EVs and diversify the EV world so that people don't have to go with Tesla, but they can still have a nice time charging because Tesla still offers supercharging, and they're going to continue offering supercharging and adapt it for those that maybe don't have a Tesla because they want to make charging a easy experience for everyone, and they want some standard. So if that standard isn't necessarily a port standard, but it's more of a amount of superchargers in the world, and they make that experience a whole lot more pleasant for other people, so be it. I think that's a lot more attainable and feasible than trying to change the port design because, I mean, you saw how well that went with Aptera trying to build awareness for it. Is that not too many people really followed.
Lost cause, but even if they're right, it's not really going anywhere. Yeah. But
it just makes you more excited for new companies like Rivian or Lucid who come to the market because then you're like, oh, what are they going to bring to the table? So instead of, I don't know, waiting for Tesla boat or Tesla compact sedan, it's more like, well, hey, that's pretty cool that Hyundai is making a sedan and all that. Or Kia's making a 3-row EV9 and all that, or just any other company that's coming to the market, or at least in my case, I'm waiting on. I don't know. What am I trying to say? I am
Silverado?
I'm biting not the Silverado. I'm biting at the bit for the new Ram EV. Just seeing what it'll look like, what capabilities it has, the range, the towing, all of that. That's what is exciting me right now. It's not, is the Cybertruck coming? No. Okay. It's their complacency, I guess, or not complacency, but their delays are the competition's gains, and I'm okay with that.
Sure. Yeah, and I want the competition to catch up and get better. It's just a lot of the time they don't, so that makes me fall back to Tesla. But I think what part of my issue with the bot is it feels like playtime almost. Like it's fun to say you're working on a robot, and it's fun to talk about, oh, what if it did this, or what if we joke around about all the potentials and the Terminators, and this is going to change everything, and I think Elon likes those crazy futuristic projects, but it doesn't as directly correlate to their mission statement, like it does in some ways. You could argue if it helps them build or service vehicles for cheap, or if they plug in the superchargers for robotaxis, then that helps them the transition to sustainable energy. And if we don't have as many people driving to work, then that means less driving, and that's better for the environment. It's not as directly correlated, but something that kind of took the back burner. Because on one hand, the argument against my point about Teslas becoming more affordable is like, well, Drew, the prices are high and the demand is still there. Like, there's still a backlog. People still have to wait several months for their cars. So what's the point in focusing on cheaper cars? Tesla's basically already doing that. That's a fair argument. So if your project is just like, we have excess resources and or time or software that we want to put towards other things, I would argue that the Tesla HVAC system would more directly correlate with their mission statement, because that's like the biggest cause of electrical strain on the grid, is like how people use their HVAC and how air conditioners are inefficient or houses are built, and and I feel like they've talked about wanting to get into the home HVAC business, or maybe tying that in with Powerwall in some way, or that project, I feel like you could argue makes a bigger impact towards the transition,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's solar production or what have you. But the bot feels like fun to imagine, but then every time I see it, I'm like, oh, maybe someday. But as we've seen with Boston Dynamics, it's very easy to turn it into just a fun, let's see what it can do if it dances, and they quickly turn that into we're just an R&D brand. We're not really trying to sell this at volume, and I do think Tesla's wise to build every part of the bot with cheap components so that they can scale it, and they have lots of materials. So like, I appreciate that aspect of like, if someone can mass produce a humanoid robot, it's Tesla. They would get that down probably better than anybody. But I don't think there's even with advancements in AI and machine learning, I don't think it's going to be as commonplace as they expect it to be. So
Sure. I think what would have been more worrying is if they offered a pre-order for the Tesla bot.
I was
that
kind of
day.
surprised they didn't, you know?
I'm glad they didn't, because then you just have a whole bunch of people saying I put $100 down payment on
Yep.
a
They've
robot.
done that.
And then they waited 10 years, and then they're like, it's been 10 years. Am I going to get my robot? The same people with the Roadster, they've waited 5 years
Exactly.
now, right? So it's been half a decade. Those people are still waiting for their cars. Imagine people waiting for the robot. Where's my robot? I want it to serve me coffee in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's like,
Right. And I
We're
think
like, I don't know.
the self-driving tech in the same way is like, we're going to create a global fleet of robo-taxis, and that's what it's going to eventually become, and that will turn into it's a pretty great driver assist feature. That's what I think it'll ultimately fall into, is like, yeah, it's handy, but no, it didn't replace car ownership for everybody. So it's still a great accomplishment. It's not to say that mass producing or finding a market for humanoid robots is a bad thing. It's just, I'm worried about the expectations being out of check, because that usually is what disappoints people.
Are you saying
the
you're
most.
worried about the Tesla bot?
Yeah. Worried about, especially the way Elon talks about it, or seeing a lot of hyperboles talk about it, of like, this is going to take all the jobs away, and this is going to
Hype people will be hype people. That's how they'll be. And if they want to be excited, they can be excited. It's the same people who are very excited about the Roadster. And we haven't seen anything of the Roadster. So
That's true.
that's okay. I think if people want to be excited about something, let them be excited. But it's once it actually comes out as a product and proves its worth, that's when the actual hype slash efficacy, maybe. I don't know if that's the term that we want to talk about, but something close to how capable and worth in society this product is. Its own self-worth in a way, except it's worth from other people. Anyways, what I'm getting at is it's all right if people are excited. It is annoying. I get it. I know some people in our Discord also don't like people hyping up the Roadster because it's vaporware and all that. That's okay. It's okay if you don't like seeing that. Then block those people. Focus on something else. Focus on the Kia EV9 being spotted again with its 3-row seating. Or Polestar 3 coming out with an SUV that starts at $85,000 and has just a little bit more space than a Model Y, but has not too good, 0.2 seconds slower in acceleration for its long range or whatever. Which I guess, okay, whatever. But
didn't Honda announce something too?
Honda announced that they're coming out with the Prologue and that they're building their new plant, I think, in Ohio. And then Sony said that they're partnering with Honda in building cars at that same location. But I don't think that same location in Ohio or wherever the new plant that Honda announced is going to be the location that the new Sony cars are being built at. Those could be built somewhere else. But I think those plans just aren't laid in stone. It's kind of the same with like where are they building the Cybertruck in Giga Texas? Is it going to be that very small corner of the Giga Texas factory, or is it going to be somewhere else? Or are they going to carve out space from an existing spot in this system on a chip type of design of a factory. So
Well, they
who
should
knows?
be installing the Gigapress any week now, since that's
You think
been
so?
shipped.
I think has it been shipped? I know that
Yeah.
there was reports that they finished testing, which means they could start disassembling it. I don't
No,
know how
I
long
just
it
said
takes.
it arrived at the Austin port, or not the Texas port. So it's
Okay.
in the U.S. and it should be arriving to Giga Texas within
In
the
all
next
its
couple
parts.
weeks. In parts, yeah, they gotta assemble the thing. So it doesn't. I don't think the underbody's going to be the most challenging part, which is what that casting makes. I think that the trick is going to be the exoskeleton, like that origami mesh of steel, which is rigid and a lot harder than most exteriors of cars. How they're going to mass produce those. Plus, like, all of the Cybertruck interior and tires and powertrain is all pretty much new stuff. They don't get to borrow all the Model 3 and Model Y parts like they did for the last couple ramps, where they're
Do you
like,
think it's
oh,
going to
just
be like a 3-piece on each side, or I guess what was it? How I imagine it, it's going to be like the front section, so like the frunk and all that, and then you're going to have the cab section that they're going to build, which might be 2 big panels, and then the roof panel. Well, I guess the roof panel is actually just crossbars because it's all
Yeah.
mainly glass up there, and
Right.
then the back, which is the bed and all that. So maybe it's that type of breakdown for manufacturing, which doesn't seem too bad necessarily, but
it's not bad, but it's definitely more complicated than anything else they've built.
Cybertruck is a whole new thing, right? It's
it is.
never been attempted in that type of shape for any mass market product that you can drive. So it's going to be a challenge, which is why, again, like many other people, my hype or expectations for my hype has decreased for Cybertruck. The expectations have only increased with the amount of times that the CEO goes on Twitter and
It's
talks
like, now
about
you don't have
all
any
its capabilities.
excuses.
It's now just like, okay, is it going to be able to fly next, or is it going to be able to activate zero gravity boosters that allow it to hover for part of your trip and all that? Like, it's kind of just become, okay, whatever, I'll believe it when I see it and all that. But I know that companies like Chevy or Ram, when they announce a truck, they are going to try to build that thing, and they're going to try to build it in a timely manner. Like, Silverado is supposed to come in sometime spring, I believe,
Next year.
in 2023. And we've already seen a prototype at, I think, Electrify America. Or
Yep, they're driving it
something like
around.
that. So they have a prototype, or at least not a mule, but they've got something that's close to what the product will be.
Yes.
So that's a whole lot more reassuring than like, oh, look, another Cybertruck prototype. But they still haven't made any progress with the manufacturing floor at that location where they will start building the frame and all that. So I don't know.
Your doubt is kind of my doubt on bot and Robotaxi.
Yes.
It's like I'll believe it if I see it, but I'm not seeing it. Like, yeah, right. Like, let me know when it's real. But until then, it's not real, or it's all just promises.
Well, this truck was supposed to come out last year. And
Yeah,
it didn't.
and Robotaxis were supposed to come out 2 years ago. So it's like,
Software is one thing, hardware is another. You can still,
Yeah.
I mean, there are the physical limitations of building something that size and building it as a mass market vehicle. Even so, you could get the excuse of, well, they built Roadsters at the level that they did in a small part of Hawthorne, and then also at the Numi factory, which is now just Tesla factory, or the Fremont factory. But I don't know if they could do, well, they could do the same with the Cybertruck, but they won't be able to satisfy enough customers that order list would go on for days, and they would never be able to satisfy the amount of customers that they have to deliver that truck to if they're only building it in a corner of Fremont. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I get that.
Part of me is like, maybe it would have been nice for Tesla just to make a classic looking truck, so that way it would be out by now. But at the same time, I also like the engineering marvel that it is, that it doesn't have
Right.
paint. It's got the shape that it's meant for a purpose. It's built for a purpose. Like Aptera
And I don't
is
think
built for
that's
a
the
purpose.
reason it's late,
No.
personally. I think it's a battery problem primarily.
Battery.
Lack of cells, lack of
the lack of
production
manufacturing already
capacity.
built up and ready for it because they've never built something like that before. So the body panels are a whole lot different. It's a crazy engineering problem. I am very much not jealous of those engineers in Texas or wherever trying to design that manufacturing manufacturing line in general. So,
I saw a former Tesla employee tweet after Elon said that he wanted the Cybertruck to float, that he was like, many of the engineers are hearing this for the first time via this tweet.
right.
And I was like,
A whole lot more sealant. So then comes the question, is the design finalized for the Cybertruck? Like people
right,
keep
that's
on
what
leaking.
worried me. Is like, does this mean they're still adding things to the wish list? In which case, I don't think we're that close to being done if they're still like, oh, and I wanted to do this. And it's like, how many people are going to drive that through the ocean for extended periods? I don't know.
Bunch of fans of the Cybertruck or of Elon to just, I don't know. People do crazy stuff on YouTube to get internet clout and all that. So
they will.
It might be a great way for publicity for Tesla because it just brings out the word more that Tesla cars can do this. But also it's, why was this even worth it? I don't know. I think Rivian's approach is a lot better. We can show you the water level on the screen while you're driving through water, and you can tell when it's the waiting depth, and you can see when it's a little bit too much, and then that's okay because then you'll drive out of it somehow. But like that's a whole lot more effective than it can float and drive through the water somehow by spinning its wheels and all that. Which the physics are there. It's just.
It feels like they're trying to top everyone to me. Like,
and you can't.
You know, since they unveiled it, they were like, "Oh, Hummer has crab walk. We also have crab walk. Oh, Rivian has 4 motors. We also have 4 motors. Oh, they have a good waiting depth. Oh, we can swim basically. You know, it'll turn into a boat. It feels like if they're late, they have to be best. They have to like beat everyone in terms of features and capability. But I think a lot of people. I saw a post showing that the most common company Tesla employees go to if they leave or get fired is Rivian. And
or Apple.
And
then they go to Rivian.
Yeah. I saw Rivian at the top. Apple was like number 2. But I think that the Rivian is essentially what a regular Tesla truck would have been. It's got a fairly similar approach in the software. Even the interior is kind of close to Tesla-esque. They've got the gear guard. They've got the driver plus approach, and that you push down twice on the right stock, and that activates it. And they've got people in the visualization. I'm like, yeah, if you wanted a normal Tesla truck, it's basically the Rivian. That is what it would have been.
Around the same cost as well for what I mean, you're getting an extra motor, but it's basically that tri-motor variant of the Cybertruck that they marketed back in 2019. So, yeah, why not? If you want a Cybertruck, go for the Rivian. Or I guess a regular truck, a regular Tesla
If you
truck.
wanted a regular electric truck, I
Well,
would still go for the Rivian myself.
Even if you want a Cybertruck, go for the Rivian. You're going to enjoy it a whole lot more because it exists.
Yeah. I think if the Cybertruck came out, I would probably prefer that over the Rivian, but I just know it would be wish list territory because the Cybertruck is very likely going to cost more than the Rivian will. So it would be like if money's no factor, I would take a Cybertruck, but until it exists, I'm going to keep saying Rivian's the best truck you can buy just from all of the great storage, acceleration, design. I think is much better. I've watched a lot of owners' reviews of the F-150 Lightning lately, and I've just been like, it's not different enough for me. Some people don't want change, and they just want it to be happen to be electric, but it feels like a normal truck. And
sure,
that's a market I understand, but I'm not in that one. I need as soon as they show the start button, I'm like, stop with the start buttons. My God, drives me nuts.
Rivians are becoming a lot more common here in the Bay that I'm noticing. Every single day, I'm seeing at least 1 or 2 now, which is...
I'm so happy for them.
It's very exciting, and it makes me even more jealous or like a little bit of FOMO because it's like, ooh, I could have put down a deposit like years ago, and then I guess I could have sold the Y, or we could have sold the Ram and then get the Rivian. But at the same time, it's like that's very expensive, but it'd be cool. I don't know. I love seeing them on the road. I love seeing
Me too.
them just drive around. I've seen also a few R1Ss this week, so they're getting out there again, like I said last week. But
no, they're on track to hit guidance, which is amazing.
Yeah, it just makes me more excited for what Rivian's coming up with next.
Yes,
and where they'll go, because if R1T and R1S are this successful of a product, and like they're not even up to like full scale mass production yet, they're still ramping up a lot of their lines, then I can only imagine what they will be at full capacity with the R1 platform, and then when they introduce the R2 platform, what will come with that.
No, me too. I'm actually really excited the more we talk about towing and energy density and stuff. It gets me really hopeful that they do make the Max Pack. There's some people in the Rivian communities that are convinced they're going to scrap it entirely. I hope that's not true, but they probably could get away with it. I don't think the company would be in trouble if they decided to not do one, but still, like, getting a vehicle of that capability. And I think the reason I think more and more about the Max Pack is because probably the Rivian's greatest weakness is not actually to do with the vehicle. It has to do with the charging network. And all of the horrible stories we keep hearing about Electrify America, even who was it? Someone in our Discord was telling us they were road tripping with their Mach-E, and like every EA station was broken. Like every single one, it was like, we're charging at 11 kilowatts and it says it's supposed to charge at 100. And, you know, it's like every stop they were having downstalls and things not working. And I was like, see, that is what would totally tick me off had I have bought a Rivian. Is like, okay, the car is really cool, but every time we go on a road trip, we have to fall back on this really broken, really unoptimized charging network. And I'm proud of Rivian. They're expanding. They're working on their own network, so that's good. And I'm not saying they need to suddenly be on the same par as superchargers overnight. That's just not feasible. But
it takes a whole lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. So I think Rivian's doing all the right things. I genuinely don't think I would suggest them change anything that they're currently working on. Like, yeah, just keep on ramping and focus on cutting costs where you can, and bringing in more revenue so that you don't run out of cash. And building out your own charge network is a good way to help alleviate EA. But you wouldn't have to stop as much if you had that higher range. So that Max Pack is kind of the best thing Rivian can do to combat the weak charging network, in my opinion. So, plus it would just be fascinating to get some charging stats and some range numbers on a 400-mile range electric truck, which we haven't got yet. So hopefully
the closest one
Silverado.
is the Silverado, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe that will be the golden goose for the Max Pack for Rivian, is if Silverado sees that many sales or that much demand for a 400-mile variant.
Yeah.
Rivian could get away with, okay, I guess we'll eat the cost of adding more batteries to the R1T, but being able to go that distance, and then they'll get more customers and all that, which will increase their capacity to make the R2 platform even more better than it is what they already have it at right now in development. And then what else they can do with their company as well. All that equity that they can build. So hopefully Silverado does a pretty bang-up job with Silverado. I hope Chevy does a pretty bang-up job with the Silverado. So that way it becomes a really good product. So then it just elevates Rivian to make a longer range variant, which then maybe causes Ford to actually do something about the Lightning at 315 miles or whatever. I don't know. That's why I'm very much in support of competition, and why I'm very excited for companies like Chevy or Ram to come out with an EV truck that has a higher range, because with that comes a whole lot more capabilities. They can bring it to a stupid high price point, but that excuses all the different utilities that they bring with it, which then only drives the technology forward, and then eventually that will slowly step down to a reasonable price, like we've seen with electric vehicles in general, where 300 miles is pretty much the standard, and you could get that in something that costs around 40 to 50,000 versus 70 to 80,000 or 90,000.
Yeah.
Excluding Polestar, because why did you make it 85,000? Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the
pretty
side of the
ticked off
EV
with
market
Polestar.
that excites me, I guess, because it feels more real, and it supports the belief of like, freedom of individuality, of like, this is the product that I like the look of, that fits my lifestyle. And even though I'm not a pickup truck owner, I can relate a lot to that mindset, and I respect that mindset a lot, of like, my vehicle is not just for transportation. It's not just for getting me to a place. It's a lifestyle choice. It's like, I use this to haul, I use this to tow, I use this to move equipment or furniture or whatever, and I want to take it off road, or I want to take it to the beach
Or camp.
That kind of individuality, I'm like, yeah, that's what EVs are great for, because they provide that independence from the gas stations, and you can power the car from your home, and some people with Powerwalls can go off grid and just like have have a method of transportation that's practical, affordable, capable, and you can do what you want with it. You can wrap it however you like. You can pick the one you like. And I guess I get less excited thinking about, well, one day we won't need to own cars because they'll all just drive you around wherever you need to go because they're so much cheaper that way. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't think you can do that. But secondly, I don't think I want that even if it was possible, even if you did make that happen.
Right.
I wouldn't want to just rent, hail Ubers everywhere I go.
Sure.
People are going to treat public utilities differently than something you own and you can treat the way you want. And that's what I've enjoyed so much about this car, and I know you've enjoyed about yours, and I look forward to the future reviews and the future videos that are going to be made about hopefully the Cybertruck, hopefully the Silverado or the Dodge Ram, and and especially the Aptera, as that is catering to a much more budget focused market. And even more independence of like, you can charge this thing out in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It could
you could be in the middle of Utah, in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere, and you run out of charge, and that's okay because you got solar panels on top. So
Yep.
you
You could
eventually
be
get
100
those
miles
40
away
miles.
from the nearest plug and still be charging. Like, I'm like, dang, that's cool.
Right.
That's what I get excited for. So I guess this is kind of a fun discussion for me because it helps me understand the mentality behind our interests, of like why we follow EVs, why does this excite us, or why is everyone so worried about the Cybertruck, and,
He said it.
and why does I want to get pumped and excited, and I envy. You said you're not jealous of certain engineers. I'm jealous of the hyperbulls, because you can tell they believe this stuff. A lot of them do, at least. They're like genuinely convinced that Tesla is going to be like a $300 trillion company just by taking over the economy, taking over the car business, taking over the solar business and the battery business. And they're just going to become this huge thing. And we're fortunate enough to be able to buy the stock for, what is it? $209 today.
Oh, it's 209.
And-
Wow.
Yeah. They've not had a good month.
It's getting
Um,
down to the levels that I bought it. That's scary.
Yeah.
Is that now?
Well,
It's been halved or not?
Yeah,
halved, but
it's been split, but
yeah.
I love that, seeing that excitement,
Sure.
I love seeing that hype for something, and I'm like, wow, imagine if I believed that. But I can't kid myself. I can't convince myself that that's accurate, or that's going to happen. I can't just flip a switch in my brain and say, yeah, you know what, it probably is going to happen. Woohoo, let's get pumped. But
Yeah, baby.
But genuinely, I got more excited for the Tesla Semi than I did AI Day, or talking about FSD beta versions rolling out. Like, my beta is going to expire tomorrow. Not beta. My full self-driving is going to expire tomorrow.
Oh wow.
And I kind of noticed I don't care. I'm like,
It's all right.
whatever.
I didn't
It's
use
fine.
it much this week. I used it one late night when I got home, and that was nice because there's basically no cars on the road. So I got to take the FSD a little bit further than I usually do because sometimes it messes up at a spot where it's a little bit dicey if there's traffic there. So instead I'm like, oh, cool. Let's try this out.
There you go.
Otherwise, yeah, some weeks I don't use it much at all, maybe once or twice. Other weeks I try using it every single day. But, I mean, that's the luxury of owning it versus subscribing to it. And then also how much interest there is in it. And that could depend based on the week or the day. So,
sure.
I think that's
or how the version is performing that week.
Right. My goodness. It could be a nightmare or it can be decent.
Yeah. I think that's where my change in interest has stemmed from, is like phantom braking and navigate on autopilot not being as great as I thought, but the rest of the car being amazing. I'm like, I love this hardware, and I love the basics of the software and how it works. Not so much the trust the car, it'll do it all by itself, and every time it does, it's like, kinda, but not very well. But so whenever I hear the robotaxi thing, I'm like, sure, maybe you're onto something, but I'm not seeing it. Whereas the deliveries, the vehicles being here, is like, this is fun, this is cool. I can touch it, I can feel it, and I want to see that with the Cybertruck. I think because it's such a different vehicle, so unique. Seeing people interact with it, use it, drive it across oceans or whatever, try to, and not sink.
Imagine I can see the Mr. Beast video now. I bought a Cybertruck and I'm gonna drive it all the way to England from New York.
Someone's gonna be like waiting like 2 years to get their truck because they're so back ordered, but Mr. Beast is gonna be like sinking into the ocean.
Insert image of Carl or something like that, just worried in the back seat.
It got so much water damage it doesn't work anymore. So
it's now a submarine. Well. It just doesn't have any propulsion. So, oh well. Yeah. So
that'll be the next goal.
I don't know. I'm more. I don't know. Stuff like Lucid or DeLorean, I'm not really as excited for anymore. I guess I was never really excited about the DeLorean, except for when we didn't know what it looked like. And now we know. I'm like, or like the EQS, I'm like, Or the
did you see the SUV version of the EQS?
I think it's called the S. Is it the SQ? What was it?
I forget what they call it, but a lot of people like that design more than the EQS.
The EQS SUV? I thought it actually had like a name.
No, I think that's what it's called.
Really? Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, I'm looking at it right now on their website, and it's neat. There are a lot. This week I've seen an uptick, or at least maybe it's the times that I'm driving around now. But I've seen so many EQS sedans from Mercedes.
Really?
On my daily commute, there is a whole bunch. Like I'm like, is that an Audi? Oh no, it's the EQS because like the lighting is a tad similar on the front. But and then of course once you see the front bumper or plastic faceplate or everything, like, oh yeah, of course it is. But there's a whole bunch, which just made me realize that Lucid is definitely falling behind if I'm seeing this many EQSs around. But
yeah, they haven't reported Q3 production yet, so we don't know if that rumor was true about the ramp.
I don't know. I think
don't feel great about it.
No, I definitely see Mercedes surviving at this point with being able to sell.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the amount of EQSs I'm seeing on the road right now, I'm like, okay, there's enough, at least in the Bay, that I'm seeing on my daily commute that like they're getting a decent amount for this car, Mercedes in general. So for them to release an SUV, which Blazer effect, people will buy it.
So many.
It's not interesting, but it's gonna sell like hotcakes because people can't get enough of their SUVs or crossovers or whatever.
They are practical.
I think they'll sell a bunch of these EQSs. It's going to be like, maybe not like Tahoes and Escalades, but it's going to be on that level. If everyone and their mother's going to buy it, or they're going to buy their mother one because she loves her Mercedes, right? That's what's going to be.
Buy their mother one.
It's just going to happen. So I think Mercedes will survive this transition to EV with at least the two products that they've got right now.
I think so too.
I'm more interested actually in seeing what Porsche has coming up next. I haven't heard any rumors and all that, but if they've made the Taycan and the Taycan, it's like a wagon version of it.
Yeah,
I'm
Turismo.
Yeah, the Turismo. I wonder, are they going to, of course, take like the Mercedes route or the Polestar route and go for an electrified Macan or
That's what I heard was coming.
Cheyenne?
I don't know
because
how
that's their
believable that
best-selling
rumor
car
was.
right now. So it only makes sense to electrify because that's what they're doing very slowly. Might as well electrify that. But I would like to see something like a Boxer or something like that they make that electric, or something like their 900 series, like the 918 and all that. Make something like that, but electrified, or just a sedan.
Yeah,
Make a cool sedan. I don't know. I guess again, I'm advocating we have too many crossovers. Let's make something different. Make a wagon.
We can only blame the public for that. It's because people keep buying.
Blame me.
Blame
I'm
you.
part of the problem.
That's right. You bought a crossover.
I bought
didn't.
the crossover. No,
It's not my fault.
You defied it.
I wanted to, and I probably would have if it was cheaper, but
That's funny.
yeah. I feel like every time we get into the car, especially because I was driving my father-in-law everywhere in the past
Yeah, what'd your
week.
family think, by the way? Because I think it's the first time that most of your family's seen the car, right?
Oh yeah, they loved it. No, they got a kick out of it. They were, and some friends we hadn't seen for a while. We drove up to and visited, and they didn't realize we had it until we said goodbye. We were going out to the car, and then they were like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And then they were like, "Hold on, before you go, take us around the block." And I was showing them all the features, and it's just a different vibe. I don't know how to describe it. Teslas carry this different. It doesn't have just new car vibe. It's like future, ultra minimal. Like, people want to get inside and they want to ask questions and they want to figure out how the display works. And the gears were turning. I probably sold our friends on it that we were in the play with a few months ago. We hadn't seen them for a while, and they got inside, and the lady was sitting in the passenger seat and talking to her husband in the back, and she was like, "Yeah, we need one of these." She was like, "Yeah, no, this is it. This is where it's headed. Everything's going to become this one day." And they were just so enamored by it and asking all, and I love talking about it. But yeah, my family gets a kick out of it, and the only downside with this particular model was I could tell my parents and my father-in-law, who's getting older, have kind of a hard time getting in. They have to bend down like this, and they reach for the handle, and there's nothing there, and they're like, "Ah, yeah, you gotta crawl out of this." And I'm like, "Yeah, wouldn't have that problem if we would have opted for the Y, but I'm sorry, I love my family, but the $20,000 was a bit nicer than them having to get in occasionally. I'm not driving them every day.
No, it's only rare occasions, and it's that nice luxury whenever they get to see you and they get to ride in the car, because it's like, oh, cool, it's the Tesla. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
But it's not like a very daily occurrence where they're like, okay, you should have gotten a different car, Drew. This thing sucks.
Yeah, I always apologize whenever they have a hard time getting in. I'm like, sorry, I said the taller one's more expensive. We didn't get that one. It's like, but that's seriously, like, I'm not missing cargo space, but the first thing I noticed when we drove to San Diego and I got in your car was the ride height. Immediately, I was just like, oh, that was easy. I just, like, stepped into the car. That's the main thing I miss about, well, I never owned one, but the main thing
you
I
got to ride in the Y a lot, so you kind of had like a secondhand owning experience with the amount of times that you have to get inside.
Exactly. And
That's
I understand why that's...
definitely have a little bit of, well, not apprehension, but like a Model 3 Plus, which I guess is the Y, but
yeah.
Maybe that's
that's
something
the
that
only
you've opted
thing
for.
I feel like I would benefited from spending more on. Like, there's lots of issues I've had with the car in terms of software, but or quality control, and I'm like, those all would have been there if I bought a Model X. Like, there's no, like, that's just Tesla being Tesla with code, and Tesla being weird with build quality because they're ramping so fast. It's like it doesn't matter how much I spent. I would have run into those issues, but the ride height, that's something I'm paying for. I could have gotten rid of that, but I chose not to save money, and I'm fine with that choice. But I still notice it, especially with older people. I don't mind it. I feel young and agile. I just hop in the car. I don't really think about it. But
are you still finding yourself use the frunk as much as you are, or
I use the frunk more than the trunk actually.
Okay, cool.
Which
I know that's something
weird,
that you
but...
highlighted initially, and I just wondered after. This is kind of weird now realizing that you've owned the car for this long, because before it's like one day you'll have the car, and now you have the car, and it's like, oh yeah, now Drew's had a whole lot more time to like.
It still doesn't feel real.
No.
A lot of the time when I'm inside the house, I've been so used to like laying in bed or laying on the couch and thinking, I wonder what the delivery date is right now, and I'm still in that mindset of like, I wonder what the. Oh wait, you got it. You're good. Never mind. It's out there. It's.
You kind of have the same mindset as I follow Ryan McCaffrey, who also does a podcast or an EV podcast or whatever. But I think almost every week or every 2 weeks, he takes a picture of his Model 3 performance and posts it on Instagram or Twitter. I think it's Instagram.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm still excited about this car, and he's owned that since the performance first came out. So
yeah.
I'm hopeful that you still
now.
have the very same in like 2 or 3 years, that you look at Pearl and you're like, yep, still exciting as the first day I got it.
Yeah, I do feel it. It's kind of nice how that feeling doesn't wear off. I get excited like we're gonna drive to the airport again today, and I'm excited. I'm excited to drive. I'm like, oh, we get to charge to full, and we get to use autopilot again, and because it makes more sense for us to back in here to plug in, it's just more practical for us to store stuff in the frunk. Like when we're bringing groceries and things out to the car, the frunk is closer. We don't have to walk to the back.
So that's kind of the factor in using it a lot more, because it's right there. You have to use it because that's how you get into your the place that you park it.
Yeah. And it's just fun. I don't know. It feels more fun to open the front of a car and put stuff inside it. It's a nice little challenge to be like, how do we arrange things in here and keep it all well organized and make sure it fits. Occasionally we of course use the trunk, but my other mentality is like, well, that is a powered piece that will probably wear out more if I use it more frequently. So why not avoid using it if I can help it? And when I'm parked at home, it's actually less practical because I have to walk to the back and it's kind of against the wall back there, so you have to tuck things away. So I'm kind of like, I'll just use the trunk when we need it. But absolutely, I would say the frunk is like 4 out of 5 times what we put stuff in when we're moving.
Nice.
Plus, we don't like bringing food in the car. So if like we're going to grandma's house or something and we made cookies or brownies, you put them in the frunk. And
that's
then
what I do with pizzas. That's the only time I use my frunk
pizza.
is when I go get pizza. I get pizza and it fits somewhat snug because it's kind of like a roundish area, and I usually get like a regular size pizza, which I guess for Americans is regular. For anyone else outside of America, it's a large, like a very large box, and it doesn't really fit perfectly in the little space. Like it's basically rubbing the front and back sides of that tub, but it still makes it so that it stays there, and that's why and also the smell and a little bit of the grease and all that. It makes at least the interior of the car a little bit more cleaner, or at least in my mind. It makes it feel a little bit more preserved in the cleanliness, because the pizza smell and the grease and all that is in the frunk, and that could easily just be wiped down with a baby wipe and all that, which I guess you could do the same with the interior, but the smell. Anyways.
Yeah, the smell. I get it. I get that usage of the frunk entirely. To the point now where I used to not think the frunk was that big a deal. Now I'm like, well, if I would have bought an EV without a frunk, I'd be a little bit disappointed now. I'd be like,
oh yeah. I think about the Ioniq that we test drove, and I'm like, man, would I be angry every single time. It's like, I wish I had more storage, but instead I've got storage for my laptop, in which I don't carry a laptop. You'd carry a laptop, so it'd be perfect for you. You'd have a frunk for it, but even so, I don't think you'd put
it in a bag or something. I wouldn't put it just raw.
So, I think what Tesla could maybe improve if they're going to refresh the 3 and Y, or something that I'd want, is something that SUVs and crossovers have kind of mastered that aren't Tesla, is being able to wave your foot under the bumper on the back, and it opens up the trunk and all that, or the
That'd be kind of nice, yeah.
opening and all that. It'd be nice for the front and the trunk slash whatever it is.
They'll have to do it with Tesla Vision, though.
Maybe, yeah. I think it's as simple as, yeah, maybe it is Tesla Vision. But being able to understand that, yes, the phone is right next to the car. It's like this proximity or this distance. And then with the camera, being able to like sweep your foot under, it's like, oh, okay. I can see that he's, well, again, like you've mentioned in videos and other things, or I guess in the last podcast as well, it's like a 3-foot distance that front camera kind of has trouble. So it has to try to understand what your feet are doing without being able to see them clearly. So that might be an
if you're
issue.
just doing the trunk, though, it could see that.
Oh, yeah, that's easy
camera.
peasy. So that'd be nice. That's something that I'd like, because a couple times when the wife and I are getting groceries, our hands are full of bags, and we're walking from the front entrance of the grocery store to wherever we parked. And it's like, it'd be nice not to put these bags down or like try to fumble with the bags in our hands trying to hit the latch or try to get the phone out and open the Tesla app and all that. Just
and I would just love a powered trunk, too. That would make a
Right.
big difference. If I didn't have to do the special way to Tesla close it, you got to put the hands right there, and you don't slam it or anything. You just gracefully. And my wife still sometimes has a hard time getting it to lock back in place. So if that was automated, which other EVs have done, the Rivian and the Lucid both have powered trunks, I think. So
Yes.
it's weird when you're used to Teslas doing so much automatically that is still manual, but it'll probably happen in the next couple of years. Oh, we added that one day. It felt like needed something there, I guess.
Right.
It's kind of
It
random.
would be nice.
But
that's probably a feature that I would really love, but
yes.
I'll never have unless I buy a new Model 3 or Y, which there's no plans on buying any of those.
Yeah. So many downsides to getting a new Tesla now. All this
That's
stuff
my
they'll
biggest
leave out.
worry driving to work so many times. I'm like, any day now I could get into an accident. It's not going to be my fault because I'm usually attentive and making sure that I'm following the rules of the road. But some
That's
idiot,
true.
like I've seen countless times this week and other weeks that I drive to work, just idiots like trying to save time by skipping lanes and all that and driving recklessly and a whole bunch of other things and
awful.
almost getting in accidents. I'm like, that could be me where the person almost sideswipes me. And then I'll end up like Lynn in our Discord server, who has to wait for their car to get done at the repair center, and which could take months on end. Or worse.
I'm going to be so mad if that happens.
Yeah, or worse, the car gets totaled, and then you're like, well, I have money now, but I don't have a car, and I'd rather have a car than money right now.
Yep.
So, it is it's a bummer.
That's going to suck if that ever happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but enjoy Park Assist while you have it.
Right? Being able to have my
While it's
ultrasonic sensors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yours as well. But yeah.
I laugh now every time it shows up. I'm like, I got it.
Insert gif of guy getting his chopsticks open to eat his meal.
Yeah, right, like that. My one last thought that I wanted to pass by you is a theory I have for the Tesla Semi, and I want to hear if you think it sounds logical, because you've bought a Tesla Semi, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So they turned off the orders for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they said the first deliveries will be to Pepsi. So my guess is they're going to start. Obviously, they've started production, I think, or they're going to. And they're going to deliver semis to everybody who's ordered one. And then, once they've completed all of those deposits, because people had to put like 20 grand down, that's when all the rest of the semis they build will be opted into Tesla's ownership of like moving vehicles around to delivery centers and moving parts to factories and stuff. And once they convert at least a very large portion of the Tesla-owned semi-operators to Tesla semis, that's when they start opening up the order page again. That's what I think their plan is, but I just think it sounds weird that they would still be using diesel semi-trucks if they have electric ones in production.
Right. I think That's definitely very plausible with them not having the order button up there anymore. And definitely they've had so many customers waiting for their trucks, even if they just ordered one. They're excited for that one truck. I guarantee
5
you,
years.
those executives are like, hey, is it ready yet? We would like to try it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you bet that the CEOs are going to be there trying it out as well because of how much Elon's like, oh yeah, it's easy to drive. And like, I don't have a truck license or a semi-truck license. So they're going to be like, I want to drive this. Like,
Yeah, no transmission.
Screw the worker
just-
who's going to be driving this. I want to drive this for now. So I think there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be very fun delivery days, I don't think they'll video it, but if they do,
I hope
it'd be
they do,
nice.
but they
It'd be
probably
great
won't.
to see the
Yeah.
faces of those executives seeing
Mm-hmm.
this electrified thing that they care about because it's their business, but it's not like the forefront of their mind of like, ooh, look at that truck. It's so great. Instead, it's like, where's this truck going? When's it leaving? We need to get
Yeah.
this moving. Instead, it's like, we need to get this moving, but dang, that looks pretty cool. Let's get some livery on it.
Right. I'd love to see what kind of range it would get too if you didn't have a full payload, like just like a really aerodynamic trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a teardrop type shape, but you still have the full like 1
Like a
megawatt hour.
Despicable Me moment.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
coming out to a point. And all that.
Basically
That'd be
grew. Like, what kind of range could that get if it wasn't towing much and it was fairly aero?
It's a good question. Or at least like maybe it's imagine a short trailer. So it's not like the typical, I forget how long those trailers are typically, but like imagine a short version of that. Like it's not 80,000 pounds gross vehicle weight or anything like that. It's pretty much like cut in half or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That will get some pretty decent range. And like that would be perfect for just driving around the city because you never really have to charge that thing up for like, I mean,
Yeah, you
I
could
guess
probably go like a week between charges.
I wouldn't say necessarily a week because they want to run that thing all the time. It's going to be more like my vehicle charging right now, where I charge, I think, every 2 to 3 days with the amount of driving that I do. So I think it might be the same with that truck. It's like they're running it all day. And after 2 or 3 days, they're like, oh, I guess we have to charge it. If they're doing like a small trailer. If they're doing a big one, who knows? But I mean, I guess it's 500 miles as they're saying. But I'm excited. I think as the date comes closer to December 2nd or whatever day that Elon said.
They said
2nd or 4th.
first, but I won't
Okay.
be surprised if it's a little late.
I'm still excited for the thing.
Me too.
It's probably one of my favorite products that they've had in the
Yeah.
pipeline for a long time, and it's finally coming out. I
Does
still
that
haven't
feel
seen
weird that the first 500-mile range Tesla will be a semi-truck?
Kind of, but I mean, whatever. I mean, they announced they did say, or to be fair, this was the first vehicle that they announced or unveiled that they said this is going to go over 500 miles or around 500 miles or something like that.
That's true. That's
So,
true, yeah.
It only seems
There were
fair
several
that-
others later, but they didn't.
Roadster
But that
isn't
was the
out.
original.
Cybertruck isn't out. Yeah. So I would say it's well deserved, but I'm more excited. Well, of course I'm more excited. I can't wait to see him on the road. I haven't seen
Me too.
any since when was the last time I saw one? Probably when I saw the red one back right before I got the
shareholder
Model
meeting.
Y. Yeah, at the shareholder
Yeah.
meeting. I think that was the last time I saw one, if I can recall. Otherwise, I haven't seen one, so maybe I have to take a trip to Fremont soon and see if I can spy one of the prototypes that they might have there, or
Yeah.
if it's there or at the Nevada factory. But either or.
I think it's the Now You Know YouTube channel ordered one, and I just want to see someone do like a Doug DeMero style walkthrough, like show the front.
Is a Tesla semi. And
Right.
I'm going to drive it all the way to Giga, Nevada.
Yeah. I want to see like the display UI with two like full size screens to see how those work, and the cameras and just the steering design with the buttons, and I just want, no detail is too small. Just go into every little nook and cranny of that thing. Show me how the sun visor works. Show me how the door pockets are depth wise, what the pedals look like
What the
I
extra
just,
seat looks like and all that.
yeah, I want everything. Give me everything.
That's something I've liked about some of the Rivian employees that are delivering, or I guess not Rivian employees, the Amazon employees that are using the Rivian delivery truck or van.
Yeah.
That's something that I like, is that some of them are very open to be like, hey, yeah, come on in, like, because they're buddies with some of their people that they usually deliver packages to, and they're like, yeah, come check it out. And the guy comes in and takes videos of like inside of the van. They're like, wow, this thing's cool. It's like, I want some of that with the semi as well, being able to see what the interior looks like, or like even better, like kind of what some YouTubers do with like test driving, or not test driving, but seeing what the actual range is on some tests that they do. Doing that with a semi, like having someone with a live stream going, and you have a guy with a video camera right there, and then you're just
the charging curves would be fascinating to see how quick
Right.
it can charge.
Just something like
Such
that.
a different EV. So
Yeah, we won't see it from Pepsi. We won't see it from anyone else who ordered one that is a giant major company. But those YouTube channels, like you mentioned before, or other individuals that just had the money and wanted to buy one. Seeing what content they'll put out on YouTube, and like all the fun things that they can dream up with some of the fun challenges that they could do, enough to where eventually you'll have people like the crazy people on YouTube who take cars and do unspeakable things to them, like drop them out of a helicopter, or drive it over a ditch, or like drive it through a forest and all that. Imagine doing that with like a Tesla semi, just because you had the money. Like, it'd be sad, but at the same time, it'd be a pretty funny video as well. And hilarious to see how durable the truck is, because something that we've forgotten is that it's armor glass, or at least I think it's still armor glass.
Are still planning on making it armored glass. I don't know.
If so, it's the perfect test bed, right? Because they need to test that at least before putting on the Cybertruck, which is going to be that mass market armor glass.
Yep.
So it only makes sense to test it out on the semi, which needs that glass for normal operation. So being able to see people test that. So I don't know. I'm very excited. Like you, this is the one product that I'm like, yes, finally it's out. I love it. I want to see more of it.
And I hope when you think about it, the semi is not going to be that much more expensive than a Cybertruck, depending on what they charge for the semi.
Don't do that. You can't do that.
It's basically 2 Cybertrucks to get 500-mile range, 80,000 pounds towing capacity. You know, if you want a road tripper EV, the semi's the one to buy.
You're making it hard not to buy a house like in the middle of Louisiana that costs like $60K, and then using the rest of the money that I got from selling this house and buying a semi truck, or a Tesla semi truck, whatever that. I mean, I can't even buy one now.
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Unfortunately, I've got responsibilities like a marriage and animals that I have to take care of that don't allow me to do the frivolous purchases like that. But
do you think someone will put a semi on Turo?
Imagine that.
How much is that per day? Like $1,000?
Probably $1,000 a day.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. I'd do it. One day with the semi.
1/15 of FSD? Rent semi for a day.
Yes. That would be marvelous.
Or like a bunch of mobile connectors, or semi for a day.
Semi for a day. Connectors.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Man. All right.
Well, that sounds great. And do you have any last words?
I'm very disappointed in Polestar with the Polestar 3. I think the design's okay, but the specs are trash, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed either.
I think they could have done so much better with that and the price, but I don't know.
And the Polestar 2 is kind of like a hatchback anyway, so that's why I was kind of confused by the Polestar 3. Is like it doesn't look that different, in my opinion, than the 2. It costs a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the difference. You can see the roots of Volvo in this car a whole lot more than the Polestar 2. The Polestar 3 definitely exudes the XC lineup look, but it also exudes the Volvo price, or modern day Volvo price, which is disappointing.
Does it have a 7-seater option?
No. It's all 5-seater.
Yeah.
It's just extended a little bit longer than a Model Y. So it's a
Blazer.
disappointment. I don't know.
Blazer effect in full force.
Oh my goodness! Every single time, like Honda's like the Prologue, Blazer effect. The Polestar 3, Blazer effect.
Another
anything else.
crossover.
I think every single
Surprise.
time I see a Genesis GV60 on the road, I'm like, Blazer effect. I don't even recognize it as the Genesis anymore. I just see Blazer. Which I don't think the Blazer's even on the road yet, like the new EV
No.
one. I see the regular ones from time to time, like the new one that failed because they're like, look, it's a Blazer. And people are like, no, that's not a Blazer. The Blazer was the Bronco, basically. It was the Bronco's competitor.
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's turned into an EV, which is, I think, honestly better that it turned into an EV if they were going to revive it. But I don't know, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
I wish.
nothing.
No, I think they could have done. I think they either should have done nothing or they should have done EV. I think that
Yes.
middle ground was bad, but still, it's the Blazer effect.
It is.
I don't know. We need more unique cars. I think we need Porsche to.
Let's get a bunch
finally
of
go
trucks on the
crazy.
market too.
Yeah, let's get
Not enough trucks.
Let's get the Titan, the VW Titan out here, but electrified. Let's get the Honda Ridgeline out here electrified. Why
There you
not?
go.
Let's
Yeah.
get some of those, or like
We don't have enough electric pickups.
let's get the Chevy Colorado, or the let's electrify the Maverick from Ford. I don't know, do some.
Oh
fun
yeah,
stuff,
that would be nice. I'd love that. A smaller truck.
right? Or
Perfect.
bring back the El Camino, but make that electric. That'd be hilarious.
Ah, yeah. Now we're talking. That'd be
Yeah.
fun. I'd like that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank
All
you
right.
all for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.